And I would now be pleased to yield to the gentlewoman from California, Ms. Lofgren, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have just a few quick questions. I am, I'll just be frank, troubled that the memorandums that allegedly provide the legal basis for this have not been shared. And I'm just sort of wondering, maybe you can't, any of you answer it, but if you can, I'd be interested, what conceivable reason there would be for the Obama administration to not share these memos, and what the consequences are for not sharing these memos. Anybody who can answer that, I'd like to hear.
Actually, it may surprise you as a Republican official, but I will actually take a stab at defending the administration on this, having spent 4 years as a White House lawyer. This is the private legal advice that was given to the President of the United States. And just the way this committee is allowed to rely on Mr. Raymer's advice, and the President could not say, we want to see the advice that Mr. Raymer is giving to you to see what advice you are getting.
No, would the gentlewoman yield on that point? Because they have shared that advice with other members of Congress, and this is the committee that has oversight responsibility.
And let me just finish the point. What we're talking about is not sharing a particular document. The administration, to the extent they have not made clear what their legal analysis is, absolutely they owe you a full explanation.
If I may, I mean, what
analysis.
you can do and what you should do are sometimes different.
Right.
And it strikes me in this case that this is one of those cases where, if you take a look at the authorization for use of military force, which all of us voted for those of us who were here, there was only one no vote in the House, it says the President is authorized to use all necessary and appropriate force against those nations, organizations, or persons he determines planned, authorized, committed, or aided the terrorist attacks. Now, are we to believe that everybody on this list was responsible for the 9/11 attack? I mean, is that the rationale?
No, you're exactly right. I think you'll have all 4 of us agree with you that the 2001 AUMF, which is only about 60 words long, I was involved in drafting it literally almost on the back of an envelope while the World Trade Center was still smoldering, is now very long in the tooth. The good government solution, while extremely difficult and controversial, would be for Congress to work together with the executive branch to revise that AUMF. It's completely unclear about what it covers, who it covers, where it covers it.
If I may, I think it's not as unclear as you suggest. I mean, this was a limitation, and there were big arguments about it. As you're, I'm sure, aware, there was a prior draft that was much more expansive, and it was narrowed so that we could get bipartisan consensus, and it was narrowed for an important reason. And I guess yes, the executive has the ability to keep his legal advice confidential. That's a long-standing principle. But since it looks like at least questions are raised as to whether the executive is complying with the law, that if he feels he is, I think it would be a very positive thing for the administration to share that legal theory with this committee and with the American people, who I think have doubts that are substantial. And if it can be cleared up, that would be a good government response, it seems to me. And if it can't be cleared up, then we have another serious type of problem that we have to deal with.
I'll agree with you about 99% of the way. To the extent that the administration's legal theory remains unclear to Congress, anybody in Congress, I think administration officials should be up here to explain it either publicly or privately, to put down in writing what they can. I think the questions that you raise are absolutely fair. Is it really clear that 4,000 people who are dead, that every single one of those fell within the AUMF? Or did the President, in some cases, rely on his constitutional powers? These are really legitimate questions. The only thing I would say is that the President of the United States is allowed to receive a particular memo on a particular day and rely on that
Well,
particular.
I'll just say, and I was not a huge fan of the Bush administration, as I think many of my colleagues know, but we actually did get access, this committee did get access to their memorandum laying out their rationale. I thought it was poorly written and misadvised, but at least we were provided with the analysis that they were attempting to rely on, and I would expect no less from the current president. I yield back.
I thank the gentleman.